Hey everyone, welcome to the horror show. I'm Cecil Laird, and this is our very first ranting review. This right here. This is what I'm going to be talking about today, you guys. This is a movie that you should avoid. And I'm going to go ahead and talk about it. I'm not going to stick as closely to our normal style of reviews because this movie pissed me off within the first 30 minutes. I had jotted down so many notes of like, what the fuck is this movie doing? And the thing is, it's not an incoherent picture. It's not incoherent at all. It's just really poorly made. And what's mind-blowing about it is something I'm going to get to later, is the amount of praise this movie got, which I just don't understand. However, I contributed to it. We here at the Horror Show did a trailer reaction, 2 trailer reactions actually, to this movie Pitchfork, if I'm not mistaken, or we did 1 reaction to the second trailer, maybe something like that. Either way, the trailer reaction that we did, I believe we all were really excited to watch this movie. It looked good, we were into it, we're like, okay, cool, this could be neat. You know, a new slasher of some kind. All right, let's see what they've got. Flash forward to now January of 2018, probably a good 5-6 months later, and none of us have seen it. I hadn't heard hide nor hair about this movie, except not long after the trailer reaction, I did remember seeing that it was getting some praise across festival circuits. But, you know, I didn't really delve much deeper into it, and then it vanished off my radar for a number of months. Here we are in January. I go ahead and go to Redbox because Fuego and I have been on a big kick to watch movies from 2017 leading up to the Best of 2017 episode that we did last week. But I am continuing to watch these movies because I realized I still want to see a bunch of these, so no reason to stop. I can provide reviews for you guys, and now, in this case, I can provide a rant because this movie was disappointing. When I went to Netflix to try and find other things, I saw Jackals, which I picked up, haven't watched yet, gonna watch it, gonna review it, but I also picked up Pitchfork because it said, last chance. First time I've ever seen Redbox say, last chance. Like, this is it. If you don't get this movie now, you're never going to watch this movie because it's going to leave your mind just like it did after watching the trailer reaction, and then you're never going to actually watch it. I'm pretty sure that's what the Netflix people had in mind when they said, last chance, right? Those exact words. So, I went ahead and grabbed it because I might or might not have been in a place at which the group of people attempted to watch this film via another medium, perhaps a cracked Cody something or other, I don't know. But either way, where I was did not get it to work, and so never got around to watching it until just now. And I am almost glad I spent the rest of my time in 2017 watching other movies because I was genuinely excited to finally watch this. I was like, man, I didn't even know it was at Redbox until it said last chance. But unfortunately, that did not pan out in the good way I was hoping it would. Instead, it was the exact opposite. The first 30 minutes of this movie told me all I was going to need about the rest, even though I did. Like, this is the first movie in a long time I've legitimately wanted to shut it off. But I just, you know, in the age of The Room and, you know, other movies like that, you hang in there to see just how bad is this? And is it a good bad or is it a bad bad? And here's the thing. I guess, you know what? I'm being generous. I was going to say I think there were glimpses of something really good, but that's being generous because all it was an interesting visual. They had an interesting visual. I don't know anything about how this film was conceived, but to me, it seems like it was conceived via one person, I don't know, drunk, high, whatever, or just, you know, having an interesting thought, picturing a guy with a pitchfork instead of one of his hands. That is the image that they ran with, and they apparently thought that that image was enough to sell terror, which it is not. And they tried to, you know, combine it by having this killer, his, you know, sort of thing, I don't know, his ethos or pathos, I'm not sure which word is correct to use here, but he wears sort of what looks like a stuffed bear's face, but I guess it's a stuffed dog's face, and he kind of acts like a dog, like an animal. Anyway, it's so weird. It's never explained. It's never fully fleshed out. This movie ripped off a number of films. I mean, there was a lot of any slasher movie that took place in a barn definitely was an influence on this film. Many slashers of the past were an influence on this film, but it was just so ham-fistedly handled the whole way through. So okay, I've already been ranting out of order, but let me just start with the story. The story is a college kid who was in school in New York is coming home after having just revealed via telephone to his parents that he is gay. So he has come back to his, southern, farming, cornhusker sort of town to visit the folks. And for the first time after revealing that he is now out of the closet, and he is there with like 8 friends, like 8 people come home with him, and it's under the guise of, oh, we're here to support you, blah blah blah. Meanwhile, every one of the friends are some of the most overused, stereotypical archetypes from bad slasher movies in the past, that it's ridiculous. There's the really pretty girl who's with the jock who's a jerk and cheating on her, with another free spirit of the group. Meanwhile, there's a geek in the group who's of course in love with the pretty prom queen that's getting cheated on, and of course he sees the real, like, it's so ridiculously overdone and something that we've seen so many times before, and these actors are just like, I don't want to begrudge anyone, their living, their career. And if these people are making a living doing acting, then doing acting. That's proper English. If they're making their living acting, then, more power to them. But this movie, I guess it might have just been a paycheck or something, but I don't know. The acting didn't do it for me. It just didn't do it for me. It was so predictable, so over the top, and just nothing we haven't seen before. No one stood out for any of the good reasons you want them to in the acting realm. It's just, I tell you what, the acting of the slasher was more interesting than anyone else, because at least he was trying to do something. Everyone else was just being something that they've seen in a million other movies. This guy was trying to be something different, so I will give it that. However, what he was trying to be was nowhere near interesting enough for me. Not at all. And as someone that has, I hesitate to even bring this up, but I have my own idea for a slasher that I've written a script for, and there's just so much more to him than there was to this character. Like, I actually have a backstory for my guy and why he does what he does and how it ties in to the gore of the movie. Like, this is just so lazy. It's stab. It's somehow someone gets stabbed through the face, forehead, and neck, and somehow is fine, like, hours later. What? No, if you're gonna play the gore card where it gushes everywhere and they bleed out, then they're fine later. You can't do that shit. That's bull. I'm not going to buy into that. Anyway, the acting is nothing to write home about outside of, I guess, the bad guy, who was tolerable and kind of interesting. Way over the top still, but kind of interesting. Moving on to, I have to talk about, oh my God, there's a lot to talk about here. I have to talk about the cinematography, which was so fucking distracting. Here's a lot of the problem with this movie. The issues are not that it's necessarily like poorly put together. It's that the decisions that they make are so bad, but then they commit to them. The cinematography has problems, okay? They're constantly moving the camera, but in such a distracting way, especially in that first 30 minutes. everyone arrives and they do the establishing dolly up to the van as everyone gets out, right? And then they all file out of the van, and all the teens are standing and leaning against the van with their significant others and whatnots, and so fucking predictable. And then the other side of the camera, when they rotate it, it is the gay guy's angry stoic father just standing there. Brr. Oops, lost the camera there. It's him. It's the angry stoic father just standing there. Brr. And it's so frustrating, and the mother who's so understanding, but they're talking. They have this whole like 4 or 5 minute scene where they're going back and forth, and the camera continues to dolly in and dolly out of both groups with seemingly absolutely no reason other than to keep the camera moving. And what's the problem is they're using establishing dolly shots, push-ins and pull-outs that are establishing, or, you know, when you pull out of a scene, you do that. You don't do it in the middle of the scene. It's so fucking distracting. If you do anything, you go very slowly from side to side. But you don't do it a million times and go back and forth and back and forth. It's so fucking distracting the whole time. Oh, it's inexcusable. And here's the other thing regarding the cinematography. The camera movements that horror movies and other movies in total use are there for a fucking reason, man. So you can't just... There's at one point where we cut to a different set of characters that are in a van, right? They're back in the van. It's the only two that stayed with the van or whatever. Blah, who gives a fuck? But they are in the van, and so to establish this, you get, surprise, surprise, another fucking dolly up shot, but it's just the van, and you hear the voiceovers of the people. It's done in a million movies, tons of horror movies, sure, and they slowly start to dolly up. At which point you cut to go in, because, right, the point of this is to draw you in from the outside. You've been outside of the scene. You don't know what's going on inside. You don't know what's going on inside the van, right? You're drawn in with this shot. Just whether you realize it or not, you're being pulled into the scene, and then you cut to inside the van and the conversation, and you're a part of it, and it makes sense. No, instead, in this, they do that. They do the push in, and I'm like, okay. And then they have this fucking horseshoe track, which then goes back. And it's like, what? What was that? Like, oh, you want to hear this? No, you don't want to hear this. And then we cut inside and go to the conversation anyway. Why? It's so ridiculous. And then, oh my God. Okay, so the cinematography, that's just some of the camera movements. Here's the other, like, fucking why part of it. Like, I would say probably 70 to 80% of the shots were waist level and up, or below, aimed up. Like, there was so many low angles. Why? It doesn't do your actors any good. It doesn't help to establish tension. You do that with the bad guy and the bad guy alone. You don't do it with everyone. That's so ridiculous. And again, it's so weird because the shots are framed in such a way, like you're watching the movie and you're wanting it to be a normal, like, you're like, okay, I want to give this a try. It's a slasher movie. I'm a huge slasher fan. Let's do this. Let's give it a go. Let's create a new slasher. All the bullshit hype the movie was trying to create. And then, like, you're watching this, and maybe it's my filmmaker kind of thing, like a wannabe filmmaker, call it that. I don't give a fuck, but I know what looks good to an eye and what doesn't. And this, it's so distracting. All the angles are so low that everyone's heads are cut off here at like most of the time. And that's okay. If all you're seeing is this, that's okay. But if you have this, like all of this, and you still cut this off from down low, what's the point? It doesn't do you any favors. It's so distracting. So anyway, okay, that's the cinematography portion. That's just part of it, but that's just the most annoying part. So let's talk about the bad guy himself, okay? This is before we get to the gore, which, okay, anyway. The bad guy itself, he's interesting to watch, but they never give him any reasons why. He's inconsistent in why and how he does things. So there's no real way you can follow what his actual, like, what's going on up here even a little bit. Even if he's supposed to be insane, there's still supposed to be a method to the madness. Like, that's why that's a saying, you know? Like, it's ridiculous to just have him go all over the place and do this and that with absolutely no explanation or anything or callbacks or whatnot. Like, there's just nothing. It's just piecemeal. It's so piecemeal. It's like the writer was just like, ooh, what would be weird here? Let's try that. Oh, what would freak me out if this guy was doing this? And it's like, okay, it just doesn't work. And let me tell you, if this scares you, then you're gonna love this movie, because there is a ton of that. 60% of the guy's appearances are him standing up into frame. Why? Do that once, maybe twice, not 6 times within a 40-minute period. It's just, it's maddening how many things were so distracting in this film. Sticking with the filmmaking aspect of it, there's also some really weird decisions made in the editing and post-production process. There are frame rate changes out of the blue for no fucking reason. They'll speed up a montage just because they're like, oh shit, gotta get this done. Or they'll slow down a pan, or they'll make it choppy looking for no reason, which actually ties into the soundtrack issue that I had. The whole first section of the movie was like choppy on purpose with the soundtrack. The sound, like the actual music is like it sounds like it was a rippled fucking, you know, musical tape, and they just kept it in rather than remastering it. It was so stupid. But at the same thing with the frame rate changes. You're watching a normal movie and then it just changes. It goes to an establishing shot that just is like choppy and weird looking. It's like, there's like, I get it if it's in its place, but it's out of the blue. There's no rhyme or reason for it. It's just because different, you know, and that's not a good enough reason. It's just not. And so sticking with the music, the sound now, the music was so distracting. It didn't fit. It didn't bother me as much later in the movie as it did in the beginning. There was a lot of things in the first 45 minutes of this movie that pissed me off, because all I had to do was focus on these little things, because nothing even happened until like the 35, 40-minute mark. And that can't be the case. Like, it's so boring. It's so boring, and you're just waiting for something to happen. So boring, in fact, that they lean on a goddamn barn dance that has nothing to do with the rest of the movie, outside of the fact that it pads about like 10 minutes. It's just a series of, it's like a montage to a couple of songs, or if it's just one song, it's a long ass song, but it's just a barn dance, a bunch of good looking people in kind of cowboy gear doing their fucking, I don't even know, fucking, I'm in Arizona and I don't know what it is, because that shit doesn't happen. Like, some places it does, but it's not so rampant that it's like, oh yeah, everyone knows what this is. It's line dancing and all that stuff. But it's to music like now, you know, like it's not even line dancing in the traditional sense. So it's so distracting, and you're like, why? There's nothing that even happens here. They don't even use anything during the fucking party. It's just, the barn is the backdrop of something that happens later. Nothing even that huge. It's just, there's stuff that they do just to pad the time, and it's worthless. It's absolutely worthless. Now, there is one more thing I have to mention regarding the camera work that just occurred to me, and that is the fact that this director loved his drone. It is chock full of unnecessary drone footage. Like, again, use it to establish a shot or two, but my God, he used it so much, and it was so painfully obvious that it was a drone. Like, there was a drone lift-up shot, and everyone like ran underneath, but clearly they like kind of missed the shot. So then the drone swings and kind of catches them, and then they cut away, and it's like, Why are you doing that? It doesn't fit. It doesn't build the scene. All it does is distract the viewer, especially anyone that's familiar with what drone footage looks like. Like that, it doesn't make any sense. Helicopters don't fly like that. They use helicopter footage in movies because it doesn't jar the fucking audience. Whoa. Anyway, guys, don't watch Pitchfork. But that's just my opinion, okay? I could be very wrong, and I did want to bring this up during this rant review, okay? This is what a lot of people said about it when it was released. Oops, that's a little big. So, 5 stars, a classic slasher is born. Anthony Pernica, eye horror. Really, dude? Really? Okay. Franchise potential. The movie sleuth, Raoul Van Tassel. No. Yeah, well, it's sequel potential because there's a villain that nothing happened to. Even the final shot, like, wow, an intriguing idea, it's clumsily handled. New Boogeyman, Andrew Buckner. Yeah. Did you remember how bad the Boogeyman movie was? Absolutely on point there. Orgy of all the iconic slashers. If by that you mean you mixed all the iconic slashers into one unrecognizable mess that was just kind of blah, then absolutely right. New villain and nightmare in the horror cinema. New villain, yes. Nightmare, not the reasons why you think. 9 out of 10 stars. Classic, primal, and utterly horrific. Michael DeFilippo, Horror Society. You gotta get out more, bro. Like, there's way better horror out there than this. Way better. That's 9 out of 10? Jesus. I can't even imagine. You must have like 18, 19s out of 10 all the fucking time on that scale. Jesus. 5 stars, a must-see. Tim Rawls Horror News. No. A disgustingly good time. Ryan T. Cusick, Sinful Celluloid. Okay, maybe. Disgusting at times. I didn't even touch on the gore, which there wasn't much of. I mean, there was CG gore to enhance the sort of lackluster, they were trying to do sprays and stuff that weren't necessarily there in real life. And those were kind of really obvious. But the actual gore itself is just kind of, it's nothing we haven't seen before. Nothing special. Nothing really over the top. Just kind of basic, by-the-numbers stuff. New slasher icon, Kelly Marchman McNeely, I think. Yeah. Horror Fuel. I mean, it depends on how you define icon. Indie slasher with sharp tension. No, there's no tension in this movie. None at all. They squander any tension. The bad guy does things that doesn't make sense. He kills someone, and then like the person's friends are right there, and he like jumps over the body and just like stops to scare them away for no reason rather than going after them. It doesn't make sense. It's inconsistent throughout the whole movie. And then finally, look out, Freddy, there's a new claw. Fucking really, man? It's garbage. He doesn't ever even use it. Like he drags it down one thing one time for like 2 seconds, but that's just so like not. No, the thing is not that good. It pokes people. The bad guy has a poker. It's a 4-pronged poker. Anyway, guys, I didn't like this movie. I might be wrong. Feel free to tell me so down below in the comments if I have been, but I'm not going to waste any more time on this one. It already took an hour and 34 minutes of my life, plus this review, but at least I'm trying to have fun with this. Watch it at your own risk. Maybe watch it to see just how bad it is, according to what I'm saying. Maybe you do think it's the new Horror Room. I don't know. I didn't feel like it. It wasn't good. It wasn't fun bad. It wasn't good bad. It was just bad. So anyway, let me know in the comments down below if you've seen it, guys, and if you have any desire to after this review. Did you like this ranting review? I kind of had fun doing it, so maybe we'll see if I'm going to be watching more movies on my own here to try and catch up, and if no one else is down to watch it, which I don't think anyone was going to be watching this one anyway, I might just do more of these because it was pretty fun. So until next time, thank you very much for watching. I've been Cecil Laird, and remember, stay scared, but it won't be of this fucking movie.